Welcome to Round 10 of PC2 Season 6 from the home of the Tifosi, Monza, the Temple of Speed. 10 miles north of Milan, in the centre of the Royal Park of Monza. Thousands of trees have been planted, giving us the lush green surroundings of the fastest circuit in Formula 1. The Tifosi will be looking for a good result for Ferrari at the most successful circuit for any one team in Formula 1 history. Just 11 corners and long straights give us a track where we could see speeds nudging 220 miles per hour on the approach into Rettifilo in turns 1 and 2. Variante Rettifilo is a tight chicane for the start of the lap here, and even from the starting grid, cars approach 200 miles per hour, dropping down to just 60 on the apexes. Expect contact on lap 1 as our drivers try and find space. The exit flows into the mighty Curva Grande. Drivers accelerate all the way through this long right-hander before braking heavily from the Della Roggia chicane. Another flashpoint, and expectations of contact here. And Variante Ascari, the triple chicane at the end of the second DRS zone, is an easy corner to get wrong and a difficult but possible overtaking point, but it requires a compliant second driver. We're back in the middle of the Pirelli range, with the C2, C3 and C4 tyres again in use. Rain is rare here, but the intermediates and full wets are available if our drivers need them. In partnership with Race Insight, Grid Finder and Bolidomania, it's time for qualifying.
Hello everybody! How are you doing? Welcome to PC2 again! We are going to be racing today in Italy, the famous Monza track. It is one of the longest running tracks on the calendar, and I hope that everyone who has joined will enjoy it today. Today I will be commentating with my fellow co-commentator Adam. How are you doing today?
I'm not too bad. I've just finished work, I've got a week off.
Oh, that's
all
very
good.
Nice.
But yeah, it's so Italy is one of only 2 countries to have held a Formula 1 race every year since 1950, the other one being the United Kingdom. Most of those have been held at Monza, or as some of you might know it, the Temple of Speed. It's a ridiculously fast track. Ridiculously fast. Like I say in the intro, there's only 11 corners. 3 of those you don't really brake for. 1 of which you don't brake for at all. And 4 of them are made up in chicane. So you've got like 4 braking zones. So making a move is difficult. You can end up with sort of DRS trains. As I believe Michael is the first to start his lap. You can end up with DRS trains. However, being behind someone is extremely strong here, so I would expect to see toes in qualifying. Teams getting their act together, getting one behind the other, because it can earn you upwards of half a second. And at a track with so few braking zones and few real corners, that half a second can be huge. That could move you up 6, 7, maybe even more places on the grid. Similar to how Austria was, where everyone was covered by a second. Now, they have made some changes with the track. With the Imola update, they've increased the severity of some of the orange sausage curves, particularly at Della Roggia, the second chicane. Those things now are like 6-foot walls. If you hit them, the front of your car is off the floor. So, we might see some guys buried there, definitely see some guys in the gravel there. And it can make quite an interesting race. Did a couple of practices here yesterday, and even some of the top PC1 drivers were having trouble getting Della Roggia right every lap. So, might be okay for qualifying, but over the course of the race we could definitely see some issues around there. Especially if people are trying to make a pass into there as well.
Of course. And as you were saying that, Michael is coming out to the final corner Parabolica, really famous. And is coming up to the finish line right now to set a lap time of 1:21.2. That is going to be our first lap of the session. And behind them are as follows: Georgios and Alex, very, very close, only separated by 19 thousandths of a second. And Georgios snatches P2 from Alex. George Norton, Tuka's teammate in the Aston Martin, who sets a fastest lap time, is P6.
Jesus, Tuka.
A 1:20.3 from Tuka Rakola, our previous winner in Portimao. It was Ryan, but after the stewards have decided after the race,
stewards took a look at that. Ryan won by, yes, I think 2.6, 2.7 seconds, something like that.
He had a penalty
with a 3-second penalty, and the game forgot to apply it. So, so the stewards took a look and went, yeah, that should probably stand. That's a ridiculous lap by Tuka. That's below my time trial time.
And he is separated by 8.
Slipstream in there.
Probably. But his teammate was way too far ahead to get a slipstream from him, so maybe he had slipstream from a guy who was on a outlap. But we only have a few medium runners of David Power in the Alfa Romeo and Duhast in the Alpine. So it is going to be very interesting to see if we are going to have rain in the race. Like Adam said in the introduction, rain is pretty rare here, but when it happens it's not that big of a deal as the track is only made out of straights. We also have a few new guys with Cody Reed, today reserve in the McLaren, and Joachim Goman, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, in the Alfa Romeo. So let's hope that they can do well today, and let's see what they can do today as well.
I mean, like I say, it's a track where you can overtake, but you can also get stuck in a DRS train. It depends quite heavily on your setup, which I think is going to make it quite interesting, especially if we are expecting rain. As spectators, we don't get to see the weather report, which is really irritating, and they need to fix that for next year's game. So whether we are getting rain or not, we're not sure. But if we do, which would kind of explain why everybody's on the soft, somebody like Tuka could have put the mediums on, still had a good starting position and got that bit of an advantage you get for having the mediums at the start and softs at the end. It's an easy one-stop, so you're not really gaining anything too massive like you do with somewhere like Singapore or Bahrain, where pulling a one-stop starting on softs is extremely difficult. You're not gaining a pit stop, but you are gaining soft tyres on low fuel, which is still pretty impactful. Even around here, somewhere where the tyres don't really suffer too much, you still gain maybe a second a lap out of that, something like that. Huh. But that's weird. Like, I'm looking at the stream and it is showing everyone on... It is showing those two guys on mediums for you, but it's showing everyone on softs for me.
Maybe they are in the pit lane setting...
Pavel and David.
Setting their softs, maybe? I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's it. So it's only showing me David on mediums. Saying Pavel did his lap on softs.
I don't know.
2 laps old. That's weird.
Very.
I don't know.
Lassie is on a flying lap, looks like, but he is not using any ERS, so he's probably saving it for the next lap, as he's coming through Ascari right now. A very difficult part of the track. If you touch that curve on the inside a bit too much, it will send you flying, and the corner after that will also send you flying if you corner cut it too much. So you really have to be slow and careful if you don't want to mess it up. As Lassie is starting his flying lap right now, I think, or he is not.
I think he probably made a mistake in that, maybe? Like you say, he wasn't spending his ERS.
Maybe he forgot to turn
just
it on.
didn't really see much point in doing it because he didn't have a toe, and I mean, he still doesn't.
Maybe.
But speaking of toes, Raphael and George in the Mercedes are running nose to stern, so looks like they're doing some team tactics here and trying to set a toe up. If they can get the spacing right, leave about a 2-second gap between them, Raphael, who's in front, could tow George all the way around the lap.
I guess we'll just
which is
have to
massive.
see. Tuka is still separated by 7/10 off of P2 of Greg. So that is a very big margin, so we're gonna have to wait and see if anyone can make that position for themselves.
I think the irony of it as well is I think Tuka was getting a tow the whole way around from Jacob's outlap, from Greg's teammate, which has probably made a bare chunk of that difference, of that sort of nearly 7/10. Because he was, because then Jacob was doing his flying lap with Tuka sort of backing it off, and he was still only about 3 seconds behind him. But let's see what Raphael and George can do in the Mercedes. Like I say, running nose to stern, so this is going to be quite a tow here for George. And if they get it right, if they've got their spacing right, they can do this the whole way around the lap. Because you don't lose downforce in the slow corners, because your downforce isn't doing anything anyway. The only place dirty air really impacts you at all around here is through the Lesmos, because Curva Grande is so easily flat, it's not going to make a difference. So it's literally just the Lesmos. And Raphael's up on his first sector by 1/10. So they're moving quickly as a pair.
Very interesting.
So this could
And
be good.
looks like Raphael, before the chicane, got a little bit defensive, like he didn't want to give slipstream to his teammate, as Jacob, or actually Greg, just ahead of them, lets them aside. Or is
It might
that
have just been a case of him not wanting to get too far ahead.
could be?
This could be a bit of a sort of sacrifice lap here from Raphael to give George the toe. Maybe Raphael's going to back it out of Alboreto, and then pick up the toe from George for the next lap. Or they're just burning these tyres out to give George that toe, and they'll do it for Raphael on the next run.
Raphael going on to the finish line. George goes into the pit lane. Raphael does not improve, so he stays P3 at the moment, which is
I wonder
still
if
good.
George invalidated that somewhere, which kind of ruined the whole strategy.
Probably. I don't know. The Alpines are also doing a pretty good job today, as Michael is P4, doing another flying lap right now, only lost 35 thousandths of a second in the first sector, and is going pretty fast in the Lesmos. As he runs a bit wide and nearly crashes, but manages
Well
to save it.
saved.
That is a bit unfortunate, but he still has 7 minutes remaining to do another flying lap, so anything is still possible.
I think Pavel's going slowly through Ascari. Whoa, okay, no, never mind. He's lost that completely and taken out the brake marker boards and his front wing. So he was going slowly in Ascari, but not for any, reason. He's just screwed it. But he needs to get a move on here and not hold his teammate up through Alboreto. Okay, he's running wide off the track to give Michael the run through, so that's fine. So he'll be pitting here. Probably. Oh, so does Michael. Michael pits as well. So I wonder if they're going to try and line up a toe.
Probably. I guess we'll have to wait and see. George Norton looks like is on a flying lap, but he is losing 3 seconds, so he probably messed up somewhere.
I think he's
stages.
backed out that first sector. I think he's probably messed it up at Retafilio, so he's just backed it right off.
Or maybe he is trying to get some slipstream from Joachim and Dragos, who is somehow in the Alpha Tauri and not Haas.
Yeah, he didn't book a car, so it just threw him in the Alpha Tauri because there was 2 free. It does that. If there's nobody on a team and you don't book a car, it'll throw you in that one.
Interesting.
So both our Alpha Tauri drivers are absent today, unfortunately. But I mean, one of them is absent because it's his birthday, so I'll class that as a valid excuse, I suppose.
George is going to set another flying lap. He is using everything in his disposal, and let's hope that he cannot mess it up right now. He is 1 second behind his teammate Karakova in P1, so he has quite a big job to do in this qualifying session. I think he still does have time to set 2 laps. There is 5 minutes remaining, and
Plenty of time.
of course, he might also get slipstream from Alex just ahead of him and Dragos, but I guess it's all a matter of time as Dragos actually crashes into the wall at the chicane.
Is that Della Roger? Yeah, that's Della Roger. That's what it does. They've made those sausage curbs on the inside of both turns actually about 6 foot tall. So the only curb you can take is the red and white. You cannot straight line that corner anymore, which is what we've done for years. So you basically got to relearn that corner completely.
Oh, looks like George is...
You just can't carry speed in there anymore. But the really infuriating thing about that is they haven't reset the time trials, and you just can't get close to like your previous fastest laps because you're losing so much time through that corner alone.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I thought
Really?
that every time trial has been reset because of the new performance
They
patch.
got reset when Portimao came out, but they haven't done a reset when Imola came out because they didn't do a performance patch. They didn't change the cars at all. But they've changed this track. They've changed the curbs at Della Roggia. So where you used to be able to sort of stick it in 4th, maybe 5th gear, as I think Daryl's binned it out of the 2nd Lesmo. But where you used to be able to take the corner in sort of 4th, 5th gear and sort of straight line it and cut both the inside corners quite heavily and run it all the way out to the gravel on the exit, you can't do that anymore. Because as soon as you try at turn 3 at the first part of Della Roggia, the front end of your car is off the floor, and then you can't turn for the second part.
Very interesting.
It's absolute murder, that corner now.
And there is a tire of Daryl's car right in the middle of the road. I think it disappeared right now, so that's very good.
Hopefully it's ghosted. Whoa! George has lost it out of Della Roggio as well, lost his front wing.
Oh.
He keeps all four wheels on the car and keeps pointing the same way, but that's going to ruin that lap and possibly that set of tyres.
He still has enough time to do one.
He might have been on his in lap anyways, so it might not be the worst thing in the world. Oh no, the tyre's still there. That tire's not going anywhere.
Alex has set a lap time
Hopefully
of 120.8, only 5/10 behind of Duca, so everyone is getting a bit closer. So that is very good to see. And George Norton also set a lap time of 121.0, 15 thousandths of a second behind P3, so that is still a bit too slow than his teammate, but still a pretty good position indeed.
It's not bad, yeah. It's a good place to start. I mean, obviously there's quite a big gap up to Tuca, but it's a good position to start in P4. Yeah, this is something we're not going to experience tomorrow, unfortunately.
What do you mean exactly? Oh yeah!
Because we have a sprint qualifying instead of qualifying.
I forgot about that.
In PC1.
I actually
good luck
forgot.
With that. I'm starting in the middle of the pack.
I'm starting P3 or P2,
shit.
I think. So that's nice.
That's bullshit, is what that is. I'm starting P10 so he killed me to Retafilio. Or I'm going to kill someone else in Retafilio. Dragos has gone off again at Della Roggio. Oh,
Duke has 3 tires.
Pavel has lost it in a Ascari. Robbie's been disqualified for parking in a dangerous location.
Oh, Duke has this...
It's all kicking off now!
Interesting.
We've had a crash. Well, we've had 2 crashes and a disqualification in, what, 4 seconds?
I only saw now that George put 3 laps on his softs.
Yeah.
So that is not very.
He needs to beat that time, really. I mean, it's not the biggest difference in the world because obviously he doesn't want to pit on the same lap as Duca.
But he does have to start on those tires, which is going to be.
So he doesn't want to pit on the same lap as Duca, and he will get a bit of an undercut with the mediums. Fresh mediums are faster than worn softs around here. So it's not the worst thing in the world. And the hards aren't terrible, because there's like 2 traction zones. So you can go soft hard, that does work. It's not as bad as it is in some other places. It's just not, you know, optimal. But I don't think it makes that big of a difference, if I'm totally honest. It's obviously not ideal, but I think the difference is significantly less than in some other places. If it was, you know, Spa, and he had 3 laps on his softs, that'd be a problem.
It would be.
But I don't think it matters at Monza.
Oh, and Jacob crashes into the wall!
Oh boy.
That was Lesmo 1. He lost control, I think, went a bit too deep on the throttle.
Yeah. He'll have got up on that curb like Michael did earlier, but Michael managed to just about save that. I think Jacob probably kept his foot in maybe to try and get the lap, and that's ended badly. But, I mean, Ferrari's leaving the track at Monza is not unheard of, so...
Yeah, but it is their home track, so they have to try and impress the Tifosi. So this is not a very good performance as of now, but maybe in the race everything can happen reverse. Lasse Rasmussen is P14 in the Haas, 122.1. We have finished qualifying, so this is going to be his only time that he is going to be able to set. So let's keep on board with him and let's see if we can manage. Going on the second straight right now, going to Ascari. Let's see. He doesn't improve by a lot, only 47 thousandths of a second. He does cut Ascari and invalidates his lap. So he will stay P14 only if Dragos can improve, but he doesn't. He stays P16 with a 123.2. So that is very, very interesting. Jamie Lyon in the Red Bull is also on a flying lap, so maybe he can also improve. He is going through Ascari right now. He goes very slowly. He probably lost a lot of time because of that. And I don't think he will improve today.
Yeah, Jamie's currently a second down on his split in the second sector, so I think that is going to be a P12 start. And I think that's it for qualifying. That will be the two could text pole. David Powell, which we completely missed, actually managed to grab P2 at the end.
Very nice.
I might have to start renaming people to like David Russell. Crazy qualifying laps, right? And it is a Saturday, so I mean that would work.
I wonder how Tuka is not in PC1 yet. Like that pace.
I don't think they want to do any more promotions this year because we've already had 4.
And one promotion was not very good. But let's not talk about that.
we're not talking about that.
So as things stand, Tuka in the Aston Martin is P1 again. I think he was P1 in Portimao as well. So our winner in Portimao is P1.
No, he put mediums on in Portimao.
Oh,
he did win the race, but he didn't qualify on pole.
Okay then. So
because they all got 1 lap and then it rained.
So David Power in the Alfa Romeo rounds up the final spot, the final front row. Then we have Alex, Greg, George, Michael, and I missed everyone else.
Raphael, Joachim, George in the second Mercedes, Jacob in the second Ferrari, and then Cody, the reserve driver in the McLaren, has tactical pole position, followed by Jamie, Darrell, Lassie in 14th, which is really disappointing for Lassie, and then Duhast, Dragos, and Elliot actually joined in mid-qualifying. He messaged me and said, "Can I come?" I've told everyone to go away, even though it's my birthday. So he'll be essentially. So he'll be starting at the back of the grid as well. So make sure you put your setup on, Elliot.
Dragos is in the AlphaTauri because he didn't choose a car before the session started. Boss.
Oh, and it's put Elliot in a Haas, so we'll just have to swap those around.
Yeah.
But that's fine. That's fine. If you both just crash into each other in Retafilio, then like we don't have to do anything with the standings.
I just hope we don't have the same crash as we had in real life with Max and Lewis. But we cannot have that crash today because this is a game. A very bad game.
I mean, we could. I don't know how the physics works. It's possible. But the thing is,
possible,
it's like if somebody
no
goes on top of another car, like Max did with Lewis, they might just go orbital because game physics said what. Like, so I mean, that could be interesting as well.
If they
go
orbital,
I don't think you get any points for circumnavigating the Earth, but I mean, they could try if they really want.
I mean, they could. But they will be able to continue, not like in real life where they were stuck in the gravel trap.
Yeah, I mean, you can get beached, but it's very specific corners on the game where you can get beached. A lot of them are in Canada, actually. But it depends how high the curb is. Because you can lift the car up on the curb, so the rear wheel's out on the floor, and then you can't move.
And yeah, so it was a pretty eventful race in real life. Do you think that we're gonna have an eventful day here as well? Monza is, like we said before...
It tends to be. Monza tends to be pretty eventful with equal cars, because a lot of it sort of comes down to like what setup you decide. I personally run extremely low wings on here.
Of course.
Which gives me a lot of straight lines, like even compared to other people. I've seen people running things like 3.5 and stuff, wings, or like 5.3 maybe. I run 1.4, so I do 200 miles an hour down the straight with no DRS and no slipstream.
Some people that I know think that Monza isn't pretty eventful because it is mostly set up of straights and there aren't many heavy braking zones to overtake, but with experience from everything else, it's one of the most eventful, actually, tracks of the year.
There's normally something kicks off at Monza. As long as we don't have any recreations of Seb at Ascari, it'll be fine.
We are waiting for...
came on the track like an idiot!
Paolo has crashed into the wall.
How has he managed that?
He went straight on into the wall.
Oh, okay. Well, why is Paolo in an Alpha Tower? What is it with Alpha Towers today?
Wait, where should Paolo be?
Williams, I believe. He's a full-time Williams driver.
Oh, he left the session.
Oh.
That is going to be pretty bad for everyone else, as everyone else will have cold tires, so it will be pretty eventful at the start.
They're going to be very cold. They're all just sat on the, everybody else is sat on the grid as Paolo just sort of, Paolo bot drives around. So, this could be fun. But in terms of tyres, Cody in 11th, Daryl in 13th, so both McLarens, Lassie in 14th, and Robbie have all put the mediums on, so they'll be looking to go long, put the softs on at the end, and get some speed up there. Whereas everybody else is on the softs. Obviously the top 10 have to be on the tyres they qualified on, which were all softs, as well as Jamie, Pavel, Dragos, Paolo, and Elliot all behind them.
And we are starting right now. We have 5 red lights. It is a long hold up as always, and we are away. We already have a crash behind with Jamie and Elliot, I think that is. But we have a battle with David Power, who is going on the inside of Tuka Rakula and will probably get P1 today. And he manages to get P1 of Tuka, and George Norton just behind them is battling with Alex, and he loses traction over the first chicane and loses 1 position to Alex. He is P4 at the moment.
Greg, Raphael, and Michael went 3 wide through Retafilio and somehow all come out facing the correct way with all of their parts intact. Not sure how they've managed that, but I'm impressed.
We have Raphael, who is P6. He has overtaken Michael. Greg and George are also battling, which puts him into P4. So we don't have any big crashes yet. We only had that one with Jamie and Lassie, I think. So everything is going pretty smoothly at the moment. I think that Raphael is trying to go to George, who lost a bit of positions at the start of the race and is going pretty badly. David Power, our leader, has spun and is now P10.
Oh. He's lost his front wing.
Oh, that is very unfortunate.
26 laps on hards. That's a stretch.
It is possible.
I think it's the only option he's got. He's going to have to try and do 26 laps on hards, but that's a stretch. Tuka leads from Alex with 0.7 of a gap. It's then Greg behind, but he's already out of Alex's DRS range. The fighting he had to do has already dropped him out of that, so he's going to have to gain that half a second before the DRS opens at the end of the next lap. George makes a move on Raphael into Retafilio and gets up into P4. With Michael side by side with George behind them through Curva Grande. And this is going to give George the inside line into Della Roggia, but 2 by 2 into there really doesn't work with the curbs how they are right now.
But they leave each other space.
They make it work.
They leave each other space, and it goes cleanly. And just behind them, has made
Jacob up, and that gives Pavel a run into the first Lesmo.
And overtakes Jacob. Very impressive indeed.
Nice.
Now he has slipstream from his teammate, so he can maybe pull away from Jacob. But Jacob's
looking for a move back into Ascari.
Going on
you can throw it down the inside into Ascari, but the other guy has to know you're there and sort of let you do it. He just doesn't have the straight line speed to get there.
It's very dangerous. Oh, but Pavel gets a pretty bad line. Goes very wide on the exit of Ascari, and they're still side by side to Parabolica, renamed, I think, Alboreto. And Duhast and Jacob are still side by side. I think that they collide a little bit.
Building a gap at the front. This is a straight drag race down to Retafilio. Jacob manages to get in front, but Pavel's going to come back in. Pavel's got the slipstream from Michael in front. And that's going to give him possibly the chance to go around the outside.
And breaks
He's going to
very
end up on top of the Ferrari here.
And overtakes him for P8.
That's some really good racing, these guys.
Nice.
So easy to crash into each other through those chicanes, leaving each other plenty of space. Really good racing. Tuka now has a 1.7 second lead at the front, but has managed to catch up to Alex and has got back into DRS range. So he's going to have DRS down the main straight into Retafilio on this next lap. And he'll have DRS here down the back straight into Ascari to let him get close. You really can't make a move into Ascari when you're 9/10 behind, but it is going to get him close for the run down to Alboreto.
But he is not gaining any time. So
I think Alex is probably spending some ERS to try and defend from that.
Maybe.
As the Alpines swap into Ascari.
Jesus.
And we've got a spinner.
It is our reserve driver Joachim in the Alfa Romeo, but thankfully I don't see any damage, so he will be able to continue.
Yeah, I think he ghosted before anybody collected him.
That is very good.
He doesn't have any damage, he just sort of lost it on his own. But it does put him last of everybody that hasn't pit. Where we have David Power. We actually have a fight at the back between the guys that have pit, between David and Lassie. They've both gone on the softs, so they're both looking for a car to try to bring themselves back into this.
Sorry for disrupting you,
fine.
but Duhast and Jacob have collided very severely and nearly spun each other. But thankfully, Pavel has made it work.
Both cars seem to have survived and have all their parts, so their front wings look to be intact. As David Power sets the fastest lap at the back, so he's going to be hoping to close in as much as possible. But they need a safety car, those two. Both of them sort of fighting in the upper echelons of the championship. They need a safety car if they want to get anything out of this race.
Jacob
gets a bit wide out of the second Lesmo, and this is going to give Pavel a run down into Ascari.
Oh, and they're going to be side
made
by
his
side.
teammate down here. Is he going to make a move on the Ferrari as well?
Oh,
he's in front before the braking zone.
Very impressive. And Jacob is losing a lot of time into Ascari and nearly loses it on the exit. And crashes into the wall nearly.
Gonna open him up to Robbie and Elliot behind him.
Lassie Rasmussen retires from the race.
Has he binned it?
Probably, but I cannot see.
We have to hope his car's still there when Tuka gets around.
There is a safety car.
Ooh. So that's gonna help. That's gonna help David out at the back. It's gonna bring him back up into contact with the field whether anybody pits. Dragos pits.
Jacob, Jamie.
Sorry, Jacob pits.
Jacob and Jamie.
Yeah.
So everyone else is staying out, so this is very interesting. I think that they can go onto mediums because the tire wear is not that high on this track, so mediums can probably go to the end of the race.
If you start on the softs, you could probably pit here and try and do sort of 20 laps on the mediums, or like Jacob and Jamie have done, you can just put the hards on and they'll definitely get to the end.
They are going to be a bit slow, but after everyone makes their pit stop, it will give them the advantage.
Yeah, they're not terrible. They're not as bad as they are on some other tracks because there's so few traction zones here. So there's so few places where you're actually losing time. You can still go flat through Curva Grande. You can still take Alboreto in sort of high revs 4th or low revs 5th gear. So you're not losing a huge amount for being on the hards, but like I say, they will definitely get to the end. There's maybe only a half a second a lap delta to the mediums, so they're not too bad. Better than in most places, anyway.
Of course.
And they both managed to hit and come out in front of David in the Alfa Romeo, which means David hasn't actually made any places at all under the safety car, despite 2 people pitting.
Alex also
he needs
goes
some of the guys
into the
further
pit lane.
back to pit. People like Joakim and Paolo. Oh, Paolo's ghosted actually. Ignored me. Alex gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That's not going to go down well with the boss.
Everyone goes into the pit lane except for Tuka. So this is going to be very interesting of what strategy he is doing.
Tuka confident with his tire management. It's whether he's expecting another safety car after the restart, with a lot of people sort of piling into Rettifilio together, which is entirely possible. In which case you don't want to pit on the first one, you want to pit on the second. If there's chaos behind you. But that also promotes Pavel up into P2. Who's also on the soft, so it's not just the medium guys that have stayed out and sort of hoping to gain track position. Also promotes Elliot to P4 when he didn't partake in qualifying. Which just goes to show that your qualifying doesn't need to be great to get a good result. I think I started 18th in France and got on the podium, so the qualifying doesn't need to be great to get a good result, you just need a bit of luck in the race. And then to make the right strategy calls. Whether it's the right strategy call, we'll have to wait and see towards the end of the race. But Michael's pit and put the softs on in the other Alpine seems weird.
And Joakim as well.
Yeah. Basically everybody else has pit and put the hards on, which makes sense because they'll get to the end. So this is like your one pit stop and it's free. But those guys putting the softs on are committing to the 2-stop.
Which is
the softs are nowhere near going to get to the end from here.
And that is not a preferable strategy because they are not going to gain a lot of time because
I think they're banking on making up places and there being another safety car, but the thing is, like, Michael's got 4 brand new hard tyres in front of him. So even if he overtakes all those 4 and then there's another safety car, he's going to drop behind them when he pits inevitably from mediums anyway.
I guess
unless it's those guys involved in it.
Oh, Dragos is overtaking a lot of people. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but he is letting Elliot in front of him.
think he was 5th when the safety car came out. Well, after everyone pit anyway. He's just got a bit too greedy on the loud pedal out of Alboreto, and he's overtaken Elliott behind safety car.
Maybe
They're ghosting at the front, but at least there's no 5-second penalties, so that's fine. And the McLarens have actually swapped behind as well. They're all now in front of Cody. The 2 Canadians on the grid.
So, as things stand right now, we have a fastest lap who was set by David Power in the Alfa Romeo, who is currently P17, a lap time of 122.8, 4 tenths faster than Tuka's lap time. We also have a few penalties. Joachim 3 seconds, so he probably extended with track limits. And we do have one 5-second penalty, but that was, I think, speeding in the pit lane.
Yeah, Alex got pinged for speeding in the pit lane. Joachim's been done for corner extensions, which, around here, the only places you can really extend without punting it into a wall at the same time is the first Lesmo and the Scary, so it's probably one of those two that he's done a few times.
Probably.
It's easy to do, like, you carry a bit too much speed into... And we've got a 5-second penalty for Georgios for crashing into the back of Jacob.
Does he have damage, is the question.
Safety car is in this lap, so he's going to have to hope he doesn't. Front wing all seems to still be there. Still attached to his car, and all the pieces, all the bits and bobs still seem to be on it.
I'm gonna try to invite Paolo, because I don't think he is still in the lobby.
I don't think you can evict someone mid-race. That would be a bit too easy to grief. But Tuka's letting the safety car get away, doing a bit of weaving down the straight into Alboreto.
He is not online, so I cannot invite him.
Oh.
Interesting.
His internet probably died a death.
Probably. As we should get underway.
Tuka's going all the way to the line, and now he goes.
And that was a pretty good safety car exit.
It's a decent start. Jacob's gonna, Pavel's gonna have the slipstream, but I don't think he's close enough. I think Tuka got a bit of a jump on him.
We have
some ERS down that straight.
Oh, we have a 3 wide into the first chicane, and someone has cut the corner insanely. We have an insane amount of crashes.
George gets an instant 3-second time penalty and then crashes into the wall and DNFs in exactly the same place Max and Lewis did. So that's fun. Jacobs managed to make his way up to P9.
George has retired from the race.
He has. And Michael gets a 5-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. But I wonder if that's because he's overtaken George and it hasn't registered him as a DNF yet.
Cody
we've got Cody's gone very wide at the first Lesmo. He's sightseeing. He gets back on the track just for the second Lesmo, but he's lost about 5 places. Oh, and he loses it in the second Lesmo, and that's 2 DNFs. He's lost it out of the second Lesmo and bin Joachim into a wall as well.
And there is a virtual safety car.
So everybody that hasn't pit now, I would expect to dive in, and it's upgraded to a full safety car. So I expect everybody that hasn't pit to pit.
What happened at the restart? Jesus.
Into turn 1, I wasn't sure. I wasn't on board with that fight. But George got an instant 3-second time penalty for speeding, as Tuka gets a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane.
I'm gonna watch
as Robbie doesn't pit and takes the lead.
I'm gonna watch
neither does Greg. So there's an instant 3-second time penalty for George for cutting Retafilio, and he then made contact with someone, went straight on in the gravel into the wall, DNF'd, and then it all sort of seemed to settle down a bit. There was a bit of switching of positions, but nothing really major. And then we got to the first Lesmo where Cody ran very wide, went completely off track. And then as he came back on in the second Lesmo, lost control of the rear of his car on the curb as Joachim tried to go down the inside, because Cody was obviously slow with grass and gravel on his tyres. And then Cody's rear end snapped and punted Joachim into a wall, and they both DNF'd.
Jesus Christ.
So that was fun.
But what was that with Greg?
Probably a penalty.
But what was that with Greg that corner cut every single every single corner on that chicane?
Oh, did he? I missed that.
Yeah. You can
I
slightly
totally missed
see
that
it.
one.
You can slightly see it on the screen that he goes outside and cuts the whole first corner.
Oh, he just straight lined turn one?
Yeah,
That's a penalty.
definitely.
Oh yeah, because Greg was 8th and then... Oh yeah, proper carnage at turn 1. Just watched it back. Yeah, Greg managed to jump like 5 cars.
That...
He went from, I think he went from P9 to P5 or whatever while everyone was tripping over each other. Into Raphelio. But he didn't completely straight line it. He may have slightly cut the corner, but he didn't completely straight line it. If you slightly cut the corner and the game gives you a warning, then that's fine.
But he got 5 seconds because of corner cutting. So it was either intentional or he locked up and couldn't move anywhere, so in order to avoid not getting damage, he corner cuts. Hello? So we have lost connection with Adam. So that is very unfortunate. I hope that he can rejoin soon. We have a 5-second penalty for Jamie, severe collision with Georgios, so that is pretty unfortunate. Everything is happening after the safety car restart, which is not really what we want to see. We already have 4 retirements of the race. Cody Reed, a very unfortunate one. Joachim before the safety car, I think. George as well, and Lassie. So this is a definite crash site. Like, you would think that because Monza is a high-speed track, not a lot of corners, you would think that there wouldn't be a lot of crashes happening and a lot of retirements, but today I think is the confirmation that Monza is probably the deadliest track of them all. But we do have the safety car coming in this lap, so Raphael... Oh, he has actually got behind of David. Tuka also goes into the pit lane for fresh mediums, but he does have a penalty of some sort, 5 seconds. I didn't see if that was speeding in the pit lane or a penalty for collision, but if it was a collision with someone, he can probably remove it. So let's see if he can do it. Rob is currently leading with 9 lap-old mediums. He will have to go into the pit lane later. It's interesting how him and Daryl haven't pitted yet, because it was a free pit stop. But we should get underway as we do, and he gets a pretty good start as he extends by 4 tenths. And we do have some guys going 3 wide with Daryl, Tuka and Duhast into turn 1. And Daryl has managed to overtake everyone, but he goes very wide and corner cuts the second corner, and he lets everyone through. Dragos and Duhas are also battling after the second corner in the sweeping right corner. Alex and David Power are also battling as well. They go side by side into the chicane. Let's see if they can leave each other space and not collide into each other. Looks like they do. David gets a way better exit and gets speed 10 for himself, the final point spin position. We also have a battle in front. We have a lot of people going too wide. Duhas and Michael. Pavel has overtaken him, and Michael got a pretty bad exit off of Lesmo 2, which manages, which was good for Tuka as he overtakes Michael, and he is trying to go to Duhast to get P5. He doesn't want to get behind of Pavel for too long, because he will lose a lot of time to the guys ahead of him. So let's hope that he can overtake him as soon as possible, and he does. So that was a pretty easy position. And no retirements as of yet, as we had in the previous safety car. We do have some people going almost 3 wide with Daryl, David and Elliot. They are battling with each other as David had closed the door for Daryl, and they nearly collided, but thankfully that was not a thing, as David gets a pretty bad exit but still manages to keep P8 for himself. Elliot still stays P7. We have a battle in front with Rob, Greg and Jacob. I think that Rob has disconnected from the session, which is very bad, because he was leading the race. We have some guy spinning behind. I'm not sure who that is. But Tuka loses a lot of time. So he is behind the Dragos and Duhast again. And the two Ferraris are actually leading the race. So I think that the Tifosi will be very happy if they can finish 1-2 today.
Oh, they need something to cheer about. I'm back. Sorry.
Oh,
my
hello.
internet died.
I figured. Thankfully you are back, because I am actually struggling to find words today.
Yeah, so Robbie's currently P3, hasn't stopped yet. Oh, wait, no, never mind. P4.
Ooh, Raphael and Daryl crashes.
Not talk. Oh.
Raphael and Daryl crash into each other, and Alex nearly crashed into them, but manages to save that. As he goes into the pit lane, he probably has damage because of that.
Quite possibly. May have picked up a puncture if there was any debris on track.
Tuka and Dragos are also
Raphael
battling.
pits as well. So I mean that's the second stop already for Raphael. His teammate behind has on 3, so Mercedes taking the opportunity to get some pit stop practice in.
Dragos and Tuka going side by side into the first chicane, the second chicane, and they touch a little bit. But
Tuka makes the move into Della Roger. So that's him up into P5 now, it's up net P4, because Robbie is going to have to pit at some point. So he needs to take off after Pavel and the 2 Ferraris.
Tuka is trying to get closer to Rob. I think he has connected to the session. Yes, he has. So, oh, he runs wide in Ascari, which will lose him a lot of time. And Tuka is trying to go on the outside line into Parabolica, and they're going side by side. Let's see if Tuka can make the move.
Really? That's brave.
And they nearly
might
collide.
Work.
And he overtakes him for P4 in today's race. But Rob is
Around
not
the outside of Alboreto, that's impressive.
But Rob is not taking any of it. He is trying to get in front of Tuka, but his straight line speed is not as great as Tuka. He is probably has a high
Rob is running
downforce.
bigger wings than Tuka. Even with the slipstream, he just wasn't gaining. As Alex makes a move on Jamie on the exit of Ascari, puts him up into P12. But I think it's worth noting as well that Duhas has made his pit stop, so he's now on the medium tyres. They're 4 laps old, so they can easily get to the end of the race. He's currently running P3, and where's the thing? There you go. And he started P15, so he's really made the most of the safety car periods. Now he really just needs to hold off Tuka, but Tuka has got that 5-second penalty. So as long as he doesn't lose too much time, and can maybe sit in his DRS, if Tuka does manage to make a move, that's really going to help his race. Pavel's really having a good run here. The guys in front are on older tyres and hard tyres, so he should be able to close that gap down towards them. It currently sits at 2.2 seconds up to Jacob in P2. He was only 7/10 behind his teammate Greg, so the Ferraris are close. Not as close as Pavel and Tuka. Tuka's just a 10th behind, looking to make a move into Retafilio. We saw his straight line speed on the last straight, and he's actually managed to build out quite a gap to Robbie on his old medium tyres. As Tuka is on the outside, and it's going to be a fight under the brakes.
But
give each other space and manages to get through into Retafilio.
Of course.
That puts Tuka back on the podium.
Oh, and we have...
notwithstanding, and Elliot's facing the wrong way.
And we have a crash with Raphael into Ascari. He is lucky that he didn't lose his wheel, but he doesn't have...
He has lost his wing.
He doesn't have any front wing. So that is pretty unfortunate for Raphael. I think that the Mercedes are having a pretty bad day today. But you know who is going to be celebrating? The Ferraris. I think that the Tifosi are very, very happy that Ferrari is leading 1-2. But Tuka is closing that space very, very fast. So
the gap was 2.2 when he overtook Pavel behind him. It's now down to 1.6. But he does run wide on the exit of Ascari, so that is definitely going to be a warning.
And the Ferraris are going to have to work together.
Gambling a little bit here. He already has that 5-second penalty for speeding the pit lane.
Oh,
can't
speeding
really
in the
afford
pit
it
lane.
anymore. Say again?
Speeding in the pit lane.
Yeah, that's what Tuka got it for, but so we can't really afford any more penalties. As Jacob takes the lead with DRS, manages to get past Greg.
Oh, and Duhast.
Robbie's retired from the session, and the AI. Jamie's retired from the session, and his AI has decided to park him on the main straight just before Retafilio, which is nice.
The only disadvantage that the Ferraris have is that they are both on hard tires. Greg also has a penalty of, let's see here, 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
That's probably colliding with someone, but I am not sure.
I believe Greg's was speeding in the pit lane as well.
I don't know.
So both Greg and Tuka have got 5-second penalties for speeding in the pit lane. So Jacob and Pavel just need to stay in this fight at the very least. I mean, obviously, you want to beat them on track, but if they can stay in this fight at the very least, and there's now just 7 tenths separating all 4 drivers.
And
7 tenths from Jacob back to Greg, and then another 7 to Tuka, and another 7 to Pavel in 4th place. So these 4 are all going to appear at Retafilio basically together. Tuka runs wide out of Ascari again. So that might be another warning. I'm not sure if you managed to keep at least 1 tyre on the inside the white lines.
No way.
But he has got a good run here on Greg, so... And these are 2 of the guys fighting for the championship. Jacob really sort of needs to try and help protect his teammate if he can. If Tuka does manage to get past Greg, Jacob needs to hold him up as long as possible and let Greg make a move back. But they're both going to have DRS, so depending on Greg's setup, he might be able to stay ahead of Tuka here. Yeah,
oh, and they nearly collide into each other!
Breaks early. Tuka has to cut that first corner, but he needs to make sure he doesn't gain any places out of it to not get a penalty. And he doesn't, but that's going to give Pavel a run at him through Curva Grande.
And maybe he will try to overtake him, but Tuka is definitely inside line and is on the middle of the track, so Pavel does not have anywhere to go, but he does go on the inside, and they collide a little bit, and Pavel is lucky that he has managed to save that, and he is not that far behind of Tuka and the guys ahead of him, so he still has a chance to fight for the podium position.
Yeah, and behind David Power makes a move through Della Roggia, so that's going to put him up into P6 when he was dead last at the last safety car.
Oh, we have, I think that Tuka will get a penalty because he didn't take the runoff area. But I guess we will have to wait and see. He's
basically pushing Greg down the straight now into Alboreto. And there's contact between them a couple of times, but Tuka manages to get down the inside. But is Greg going to be able to fight this back? Greg has more ERS, so he might be able to fight this back down the main straight, but Tuka's got right up behind Jacob.
Tuka is going off track to try and overtake Jacob.
It's a wide pit straight here. You can do that. You are kind of allowed.
But he will get a warning definitely because of that. Because he was off the track.
Yeah, but I don't think it really counts it on straights. I think he might get away with
that. It does
really?
Count. It does.
Rip. But, well, Tuka leads, so he does have that 5-second penalty. So currently he would finish in 3rd place. Jacob and Pavel would both jump him.
But
Greg
he
would
does
be P4 as he also has that 5-second penalty.
But he does have the advantage of medium tires.
Yeah, he's on mediums, whereas the Ferraris are on hards. Pavel's currently stuck behind Greg, 4 tenths behind him. So Pavel needs to get that move done quickly and try and close up to Pavel, or Jacob and Greg need to find some pace on these hard tires.
And Pavel is trying to go around the inside, but gets a penalty. And
easy to corner Ascari, both on entry and on exit.
We also have a battle behind, or actually that's a back marker, so that's
so
nothing. Never mind. Elliot has left the session. I wonder why. Probably went to host that birthday party again.
Well, it could just be a disconnection.
Maybe. As Duhast has a pretty good line off of Greg on turn 1, and they collide with each other a little bit, but Duhast has the inside line and manages to overtake Greg. But Greg does not have that big of a traction, but he does have ERS, so he will try to overtake Duhast before the first chicane. They are going to go side by side, and Duhast tries to
on the inside into Della Roggia! Oh, and he bumps over that curb.
but it's
That
still
gets him
close enough.
aerial and means he can't get the power down.
But-
Duhast is going to lead through the Lesmos. Well, lead Greg through the Lesmos. So we'll have to see if Greg can get close through Lesmo 2 here and maybe make a run down into Ascari. Tuka's lead at the front is now 2.6 seconds.
Greg
So he has
has
another 8 laps to double that lead in order to still claim the race win. As Jacob in P2 still has no penalties.
But the only problem that Jacob has right now is his very old hard tires, so he is losing a lot of time every single lap. So if he can somehow manage, or if Tuka somehow crashes, he will win the race. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see until...
Yeah, he needs to keep this gap as low as possible. I mean, neither of them will have DRS, but Jacob has no ERS left whatsoever. And Tuka, knowing Tuka, probably has some.
Duhast is trying to get closer to Jacob, and he manages to do it. He doesn't have a lot of ERS left to race with, but Jacob also doesn't. So he might have a run next lap on the main straight, as we only have 7 laps remaining of the race. So I guess
Pretty quick at
anything can
Monza.
still happen.
Goes pretty quick at Monza. These three are all still pretty close together, but Tuka's gap is now up to 4 seconds. He's absolutely flying away from Jacob here.
Duhast is trying to get ahead of Jacob into Ascari. He is using every single ERS that he has, trying to go around the outside as Jacob defends the inside and manages to overtake. And is now P2 as Jacob gets a pretty bad run off of the Ascari and loses a little bit of time, but he will still have the DRS into the final, into the start-finish straight. But I think that the best option is to not use any ERS and save it for next lap. As
He could make that move into Retfilia if he gets a decent run out of Alboreto. He's managed to save a little bit of his ERS, where Pavel literally has nothing.
Pavel trying to go defensive.
Jacob is going to make that move. He's down the inside for Retfilia.
Oh, and
Battle of the brakes.
They collide a little
Pavel
bit.
holds it round the outside.
They
This is going to release both of them, I think, possibly to Greg through Curva Grande. They're both going to have compromised their exit there.
And this battle is also pretty good for Tuka, as he has cleared, I think, 5 seconds, as Jacob is going off track to try and overtake Duhast, and has to go off track to...
He has to cut Della Roggia there, and that's going to... He should probably give that place to Greg. Because Greg's just going to have so much more exit speed out of there.
I guess...
But he holds in P3, yeah, so Tuka's lead is now pretty substantial. It's not showing me times, annoyingly. But Pavel needs to get a wriggle on, get away from these Ferraris, and get that back within 2 seconds if he wants to win this race. Or hope that Tuka gets another penalty.
Which he probably will.
These three fighting as well. He's started to bring David Power into it. He was 10 seconds behind when he made it up to 5th. It's now just a 7-second gap back from Greg. And,
I don't think
he's on better tyres. He's on mediums. They're still pretty old. They're still 11 laps old, but he's on medium tyres as opposed to hards of the 2 guys in front of him, and doesn't have any penalties. So if he can get that gap to Greg down to 5 seconds, he will jump him. Yes, so the gap at the front now is 6.3 seconds that Tuka's managed to build, with these 3 all fighting behind. What they needed to do really was work together to try and close that gap up to Tuka.
Oh, and Jacob has spun nearly in the first chicane. But
Greg
manages
has to bounce
save
over the curbs to avoid his teammate.
That is going to be
But
even
Jacob
better
also
for
has
David.
no penalties, but that now puts David just 4.6 seconds behind Jacob. So while Jacob doesn't have any penalties, his teammate in front, Greg, does. So that gap now up to Greg is 6.3. So David is definitely coming at some pace to try and steal a position from one of the Ferraris. If Jacob makes another mistake like that, he might steal the positions from both Ferraris and end up on the podium.
Probably.
Out of absolutely nowhere.
We also have a battle behind with Daryl and George. Daryl has pitted for fresh softs as Raphael actually retires from the session.
I think he's binned it out of Della Roggia, looking at where the car's retired.
Yes, he lost control.
Yep, that's a
and
wall.
Crashed into the wall.
That's not tarmac, that's a wall.
Is this the most retirements that we've had? in this season?
Probably not. I mean, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Baku, because it's always Baku.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. And Daryl is trying to go around the inside of George.
Trying to make a move into Ascari.
And makes that move
late
stick.
on the brakes. Makes it stick. That's those brand new softs going to work. And he now only has 1.2 seconds up to Alex. So if he can maybe spend some of his ERS, he has got quite a bit. Yeah, he's not quite going to make the DRS range on Alex before Alboreto to get that run down into Retafilio. But he should have a big enough gap to stay ahead of George, because he's going to get the slipstream even if he doesn't get the DRS. And Tuka's lead is now 7.5 seconds at the front. So without some significant intervention of penalties, he is going to manage to win this race. Again. I feel like we've said that a lot.
Maybe. But that's why it's so interesting.
I'm going to get on the blow towards him, like, promote that man!
Yeah.
Except I kind of don't want to promote him, because then I have to race against him. Ugh. And he's very quick. His quali lap was faster than my time trial. Like, that's worrying for a guy in a tier below you.
Only a little bit worrying. Anyways, Daryl has gained around 5 seconds in the 2 sectors, so he is in the DRS range off of Alex. He does have a little bit more ERS than Alex, so he has even more to fight with. Alex is on 9 lap old medium, so he is at a big disadvantage. But we will have to wait and see if Daryl can make it stick on the final finish straight. Which he is using
those soft tyres, quite possibly. He's going to be able to brake later, turn harder, carry more minimum speed through the corners. He's only 4 tenths behind, and he should get a better exit here with the soft tyres over the worn mediums. And while this has been going on, David has managed to get inside that 5-second window up to Greg, so he is on for a P4 finish here.
Alex and Daryl are battling into the first chicane. Daryl is way too far behind to try and make a move, but he does get a pretty good exit. Alex is trying to go defensive, defending the outside line, which is going to be the inside line after the second chicane, and Daryl is still behind. And Alex gets
some
a
good defensive positioning there from Alex.
Yes.
And while that was going on, David got a 3-second time penalty. So he's no longer in anybody's window, but he's on 5th. He really needs to keep the race clean.
That is still a pretty good position, which will give him 10 points.
Considering he was dead last, it's pretty good. But there was a chance for an extra 2 points for Alfa Romeo. With his teammate not racing this week and his reserve driver getting murdered by a McLaren.
Daryl corner cuts the Ascari way too much. And he does get it back, but Alex was a bit aggressive, and he didn't leave any space for Daryl. But that's, I think that's to be expected, as Daryl took that position illegally. But he still has an opportunity on this straight to take it, and we see that it's a pretty easy overtake, and Alex doesn't even need to fight that. So that's a free position.
With the DRS around here, it's always going to be pretty open and shut if you're close coming out of Alboreto.
The only problem that Daryl has is that he has a penalty of 3 seconds, so he needs to get away from that 3-second window if he wants to stay in P9.
Dragos has spun out of Della Roggia and lost his front wing, which promotes Robbie up to P6. And Elliot's right behind Dragos now. These two have swapped cars for this weekend for no reason.
And they are swapping them right now as well.
Yeah, that's going to give Elliot a run down into Ascari. They're side by side, but Elliot actually has
Dragos is still fighting with Elliot.
He's on the straight, that's fine. But he's going to have to brake way earlier and possibly not make the corner. Yeah, he manages to make Ascari, so he's done pretty well there. But he runs wide next to it, so never mind. So there's still going to be a warning in there for him. That promotes Elliot up to P7 on his pretty old hards. But like I say, they will make it to the end. Like, Tuka's on the penultimate lap, just coming through Della Roggia. This race goes really quick.
It does, actually. And Alex in the Williams is in the DRS range still, so he might get a bit closer to Daryl in front of him, but he'll have a pretty hard chance to get ahead of him as Dragos goes into the pit lane.
To add insult to injury, Dragos gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Puts the brand new softs on.
And we'll probably go for a fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, he will get one chance to get the fastest lap of the race.
But he won't get the
lap.
point because he is below
Yeah,
P10. He is below P10.
Apparently, that's not how Ero works, according to Watch. You get the point anyway. As long as you finish the race, you get the point.
Interesting. So, anyways, Greg has actually pulled closer to Pavel, so he might get an opportunity into the first chicane.
Pavel's mediums will be starting to go off on 16 laps. Whereas Greg's hards will be like, yeah, let's do another race, this is fine. Because the hards just last forever around here.
The only problem that Greg has is that he has 1% ERS and Duhast has around 20. And he doesn't have the opportunity to overtake him. So he will have to be a bit more patient.
DRS is powerful down here, though.
It is.
But well, on the last lap, Tuka makes his way through Della Roger. He's going to keep it clean, keep it smooth. He's got a 10-second gap, so he can afford to lose quite a lot of time in this lap and just kill it on a victory lap.
Greg has pretty good lines and pretty good exits off of every corner. He gets a lot of time after Lesmo 1 and is a bit closer to Duhast. Gets a pretty good exit off of Lesmo 2, but Duhast gets a better one. He, like I said before, Greg does not have any ERS to fight with, so I think that he will stay in this position. But
yeah, unless Duhast makes a mistake around Alboreto, there just isn't a long enough run before you get to the finish line.
Tuka is entering Parabolica and he is going to cross the finish line and win the Italian Grand Prix and sets, I think, the fastest lap time as well. But he wins the race.
Oh, fuck off.
Duhast follows him right behind and he goes off track, but doesn't get a penalty, and Greg is P3, but Jacob takes that position.
Jacob promoted to P3 on penalties. And David gets the fastest lap with a 22.8, unless Dragos on his brand new softs can beat that.
I think that this is a very good day for Alpine, as they had very bad luck in previous races. But to get P2 today, I think that's going to be very, very good for them.
And a good day for Ferrari at Monza. That's going to help them in their fight with Haas, third in the Constructors. Haas only getting... hang on. Wait. Possibly 1 point if Dragos gets his fastest lap here. Since Elliot's points will be credited to AlphaTauri. And Dragos' points will be credited to Haas.
Greg has a 20-second time penalty for ignoring yellow flags.
Wait, what? That might get removed. That seems pretty bullshit. That might get removed. How can you get a 20-second time penalty for ignoring yellow flags when you finished the race half a lap ago?
I really don't know. And Duhast is the driver of the day for the game, and I would agree, actually. Having a lot of bad luck in previous races and getting P2, I think that's a pretty good position. And we see that Tuka is very happy to win this race, as he's lifting that trophy as high as he possibly can and spraying champagne all over the place. A pretty good race, I would say. We had a lot of intense battles. The first safety car exit was a disaster, but let's not talk about that. But yeah,
I think we had at least 2 3-wides into Retophilia, which probably shouldn't be a thing. And yeah, Dragos did manage to get the fastest lap on that final lap with his brand new softs with a 22.5.
And Du has actually started P15, so getting P2 is even better. But anyways, Tuka gets...
Robbie and Elliot in 5th and 6th was 17th and 19th. Shows that qualifying's not everything, especially around a track like Monza.
That is very impressive. So, Tuka wins the Grand Prix, Duhast is 2nd, and Jacob rounds up the final spot on the podium. David Power gets P4 somehow, for Greg having 22nd time
Greg's
penalty.
bullshit 20-second time penalty, which should get removed.
We have Rob, Elliot, Daryl, Alex, George, Michael, Dragos, Paulo, Raphael, Jamie, Cody, Joachim, George, and Leslie running off the final spot on the grid, who retires first from the race. And Dragos also gets a fastest lap of the race, a 1:22.9, I think. So, a pretty good race, I would say. We had a lot of intense action, and it was very good indeed.
Welcome to Monza. This is the kind of shit that happens.
I hope that we can have some intense action like that in next time in Imola, which is going to be our first time racing there, which is going to be very interesting. I hope, at least. It is a pretty fun track. I like it a lot, but it is very difficult to not crash. I'm gonna say that. But yeah,
It's a good track. It was fun. I like it.
of course. We are probably not gonna have any interviews, so this is going to be the end for us. I hope that you have enjoyed the stream, and I guess we will see you next time for Imola. Stay safe, everyone, and have a good night or have a good day. See you next time.
See you later.
Welcome